I suggest you listen to me carefully. I'm not here to promote anything, to sell anything. I'm here to share something with you that I feel in my heart both you and I need to hear. It's a message that I feel it applies equally to me as it does to you. And I think it's important that we both face this message and transform our lives as a result of it. Listen to me. You, and by all means, I don't mean this in any way offensively or in an accusatory way, but if you stop to think about your life, there's madness in your life, and to a certain extent, our lives are miserable. And what we do to cover up the misery, to survive, to get along, is we entertain ourselves, we try to fill the gaps with all kinds of drugs of all type, drugs, entertainment. I don't mean drugs like necessarily like illicit drugs. I just mean we do things to kind of forget, to relax, to entertain ourselves, all kinds of things. And what we're really trying to do there is forget the misery of our own existence. The question is, why is our existence so miserable? The reason why it's so miserable is because we make it so. We make our lives miserable because at a very deeply unconscious level, we feel guilty. We feel guilt. We feel horrible. We feel horrible about ourselves. But the things for which we feel horrible about, we feel so horrible about them that we bury them in a part of our minds that we call the unconscious or the subconscious. In other words, if I were to sit with you right now and ask you, how come you feel so horrible about yourself? You tell me, no, I don't. I feel great. I have a job. I drive this nice car. Look at the house I live in, whatever. That's all the cover. Deep inside, you feel horrible because you've made your life horrible. And the way in which you made your own life horrible, me and you alike, constitutes or it amounts to self-punishment. We punish ourselves. Now, why would we punish ourselves unconsciously? Because we feel guilt. See, guilt or not guilt, none of us is guilty. We're all innocent. And this is what I wanted to convey to you right now. This is what I want to convey to you right now. We're innocent. You and I are innocent, but we do feel guilty. So when we feel guilty, please understand there's a difference between feeling guilty and being guilty. When we feel guilty, we end up doing things unconsciously that amount to self-punishment. So if you were to go into a state of hypnosis where we access your own unconscious mind, you would tell me everything that you have done. You would cry, you would feel desperate. I've been doing this 6 days a week for almost 22 years now. And you would tell me horrible events in the past where you believe you've behaved as a monster. You may have hurt others, in some cases, in the distant past. You may have killed others, you may have offended others, you may have hurt people's feelings, you may have done horrible things. But you know, thousands of people have healed themselves here and lived wonderful lives because they've been able to forgive themselves. And I want you right now to forgive yourself as well. And you say to me, yeah, but if I really listen to what you're saying, and if I were to close my eyes right now, really listen to this message, and get in touch with those innermost feelings of mine, I have these traces of memories of horrible things I've done in the past, and I can't forgive myself for them because they're horrible things. And the reason why you say that, my dear friend, is because you're an awesome human being. You have a conscience. Listen to me carefully because your life depends on it. You think that way because you have a conscience. And because you have a conscience, you take responsibility for what you have done. And because you have a conscience, you look at what you have done with horror. What's the alternative? To think that what you've done is acceptable? That would have meant that you didn't have a conscience and you wouldn't have felt guilty. We have a name for that in the books. You're not that person. You have a conscience. And of course you feel horrible about what you have done. I'm here to remind you that although I agree it is horrible, it isn't your fault, and therefore you're perfectly entitled to self-forgiveness. And I'll give you a quick example. Do you remember back during the Vietnam Wars, during the 60s, when we have a system here in the United States called the draft, meaning the military system? They still have that in many countries around the world, where you must go into the military. If you're a male, by the age of 18, I think it is, you have to go into they have a draft, they have a system where you must serve in the military system. Well, at a time of war, if you serve in the military, the country is at war, you go to war. You don't have a choice. You were put in that situation, so now you're in this battlefield and somebody's pointing a rifle at you, and you have a rifle. That person is dressed in a way, they speak a language that tags them, that labels them as an enemy. They don't know why they want to kill you. They're just as hypnotized as you are. In other words, they want to kill you because they were made to believe that you are the enemy. But you are also made to believe that this person is the enemy. We're victims of the circumstances. You are put in that place, just like that other man was put there. And now you're pointing a rifle at one another, and you know that if you don't pull the trigger, you might die and never have an opportunity to come home and live your life again. So both of you pull the trigger, but your bullet seems to hit the man. Does that make you a killer? Are you an assassin? Are you a killer? Are you anti-life? See, you're put in this situation. Life put you in this situation. And you might say to me, yeah, but dude, we don't have a draft system anymore. I'm not in the military. And what I did to that person was horrible. I offended him or her. I get you. You have a conscience. You want to be the best you can be in every single circumstance. But you know what? Life itself is just like the draft. Life drafts us into situations that, you get into the situation. You just got a job. The person was there. You didn't know your boss was going to turn out to be that way. You moved into the house. The neighbor turned out to be that way. It wasn't you got drafted into that situation. You're driving in traffic. You got drafted into a situation where this person cut you off and got angry, whatever. We get drafted into situations. You meet a man or a woman, you fall in love. And you believe in love. And you give your heart to this person, to this situation. Things happen. Listen to me. We get drafted into wars all the time. And once you are at war, you see, bad things happen. And we behave in certain ways that, of course, we're not proud of. Of course, they're not good. Of course, they're beneath us. But you only see that they're beneath you because you have a conscience. So what I want you to do right now is to look at all of the supposedly horrible things that you have done and forgive yourself for all of them. And the reason why you can forgive yourself is precisely because you have a conscience. And precisely because you have a conscience and you forgave yourself, you won't have to attract those situations into your life anymore. Pay attention to this. Your life depends on it. Listen to me. You got to forgive yourself right now. You got to stop this video, close your eyes and say, I forgive myself. Think of all these things that torment you and say, I forgive myself. Listen, you know the kind of person who has turned off this video a long time ago? It's the kind of person who doesn't think they've done anything wrong. Do you know why? Because they don't have a conscience. You do. Forgive yourself, because in so doing, you won't have to attract those situations into your life again. And you can have some peace. And then, you see, we can grow, we can develop, we can learn. But it is important that you forgive yourself right now. What happened was horrible. It was too bad. But it was the result of being placed in a situation that in many ways we had no control over. You're drafted into those situations. And once you're there, things happen. Now, we're going to talk more about this, but remember that we oftentimes find ourselves entangled with people who precisely do not have a conscience. They play a very different kind of game. Very different kind of game. They don't mind hurting others so long as they are perceived to be perfect. You got to be very careful, because a person with a conscience in a game, playing the game of life with other people who don't have a conscience, you see, it's a very unequal battle there. They don't mind hurting. They don't mind lying. They don't mind anything so long as they think they are winning. You got to be very careful with this. You got to look around yourself. People who have no remorse, people who have nothing to learn, people who never say I'm sorry, people who never have anything to review or learn, people who simply keep on charging ahead. They're perfect every time. It's always your fault. It's always because you have a problem. See, those people do not have a conscience. They have nothing to learn. They'll tell you they have nothing to learn. They'll tell you it's all your fault. But you see, how did you get in this situation? See, you got drafted. Life put you there. Now we have to very gracefully forgive ourselves and make a very graceful exit. Be graceful, be generous, be honest, be sincere, be good, be true to yourself. You bring your conscience into it, even though the other person doesn't. And with your conscience, with the integrity of who you are, make a gracious exit. And above all, as you're making an exit from this situation, from the madness, fill your heart with gratitude. Because at the end of the day, that person did you a huge favor. Because what that person did for you was, that person helped you remember who you are. Make sure that you fill your heart with gratitude. But if the person has no conscience, make a graceful exit, because you are a son of peace, not a son of war. If life puts you in a war zone, that's fine. Your nature is peaceful, make a graceful exit, and you'll be okay. And by all means, this has nothing to do with money, with the services I provide. This is you and I, heart to heart. If you need anything, call me. I'll help you. I don't care if it has nothing to do with what I do professionally. If you're in a bad spot right now, if you're on the verge of forgetting who you are, but you're listening to me right now, call me. I'll be happy to help you out. We got to stick together. We got to stick together, and we have to be who we are. This is really, really important. Thank you.